All right. It is 6 o'clock on the dot on a Sunday evening. I am going to go ahead and kick things off and be respectful of your time, but also to be able to give Alicia as much time as possible to be able to share all the amazing content that she has for us today. My name is Shayla Rexroad. I am with the Friday Institute. If you are not familiar with the Friday Institute, we are honored to be able to host the Learning for All virtual conference. We are located on the NC State campus in Raleigh, North Carolina, where we like to say it's where research, practice, and policy come together. The team that I am with is the Professional Learning and Leading Collaborative, and we focus extensively on supporting educators across the state of North Carolina, but now on a national basis, helping them to grow in their leadership capacity around personalized learning, but also through innovation. So when we were given the opportunity to be able to host this conference, we immediately jumped on it, started reaching out to the very best of the best that we've had an opportunity to interact with, that we've had chances to go and see in action, that we have attended their sessions at conferences before. So we are really excited to be able to bring you a dynamic lineup of presenters. This will be the last session for the day, but we will kick things back up tomorrow at noon Eastern. So we hope that you will jump back on and join us. A couple of really quick things before I turn it over to Alicia. In case you were wondering if you had friends who were unable to join, or if afterwards you're like, oh, I want to go back and watch this again, there were some things I missed. We are recording each of the sessions. They will be linked back onto the working agenda that you accessed through the Zoom link. Those will be posted in the next day or two for you to go back and review. At the conclusion of this session, we will ask you to please complete a 2-question survey to give Alicia feedback. We always know, if you've ever been a presenter, even as an educator, how important feedback is, and it really does help each of us grow in our own professional knowledge and background. So any and all feedback you're willing to provide to her, I know she would really appreciate. And the link for the link for the surveys is located back on that main agenda out by her name. We have also provided a link to her presentation out on the agenda, so you are more than welcome to access that as well. And lastly, we do hope that you will take advantage of the chat window. If you have not already located it, if you just kind of scroll your mouse around on your screen, a window should pop up and you'll see an option for the chat. This is where we really encourage you to post questions, post comments, post resources, personal experiences. There will be times throughout Alicia's presentation where she may ask you to share out, and we are asking that you do it through the chat window. We do have everyone on mute just because we do have a very large audience and we want to be respectful of each other's capacity to hear. But if there is something really pressing that you want to personally ask or follow up on, if you would just let me know in the chat window, I will be moderating that and I will work with you to get you off of mute so that you can share with the group. I think that is it for me. Again, I am really honored and excited to be able to introduce Alicia Ray. She is out of Surrey County, North Carolina. She is with a middle school, and I am going to announce her title, but please do not be scared by it. She is going to unpack this title because it is quite extensive, but she is the lead digital learning and media innovation facilitator. I told her I was exhausted just hearing that title. But again, she's going to dive a little bit more. The title of her session is Educational Eye Exam, Creating Your Vision for Education. So with no further ado, I am going to stop sharing my screens and I am going to let Alicia share. You'll give her just a minute. You should see her information pop up, and we hope you enjoy the session. All right, we can see you.
Oh, I'm so excited. Hi, friends. So my name is Alicia Ray, and I am the proud author of the book, Educational Eye Exam, Creating Your Vision for Education. And I'm super, super honored to be able to chat with you guys tonight. We will have some interactive sessions, some interactive pieces where I'll ask you to put some things in the chat box and so forth. So it won't be just a whole lot of me talking. I might even sing a jingle for you. So we'll see what happens. But I'm super pumped you're here. If you are on if you're on our presentation, you'll really get a more fulfilling experience, I believe. So the bit.ly's there. I also put it in the chat box if you need to access it there. So lead digital learning and media innovation facilitator. Oh my goodness, that's a lot, right? So my mouse disappeared. Let me make my mouse there. Is that better? Okay, so lead digital learning, the lead portion literally just means that I was the pilot position. That's it. I'm nobody's boss, thank goodness. I just get to have the privilege of figuring out what's not working and what is working and then share it with others. Digital learning, I am an instructional coach in the digital learning area at a STEM magnet middle school. So our students are one-to-one with Chromebooks, and we'll talk about that a little more in a few minutes, but that's the big piece with digital learning. Media innovation facilitator, I'm a librarian. That's what that comes down to, okay? So I work in our library. I'm actually here right now. This is my personal book collection. Shayla and I were joking about my nerdiness when it comes to books. I've got all kinds of things behind me here. But I do absolutely love my job. I'm super fortunate. I serve 27 classroom teachers and approximately 400 6th through 8th grade students at our STEM magnet middle school. So it's a lot of fun. You can access me at any time on both Twitter and Instagram using the handle I Love Educating, ILUV. And you can also get me on email at iloveeducating@gmail.com. I've also put on here our FI Learn for All hashtag, as well as the EduI exam hashtag. We're building a community around this idea of having an eye exam for education. So we're going to talk about that now. So moving right along, I'm really curious to see who you all are. Now, I know that we've gone into the chat box and we've really briefly mentioned who we are and where we're from, but if you will take just a second, in fact, if you've already got the presentation up, you should be able just to click the little Bitmoji down here. And I love that they have a Bitmoji, especially for things that touch my heart. So if you'll click that, it will bring up a Google form. I have my trusty phone here, so I'll be able to see your responses as they come in. So take just a second and go through and answer those questions. It's a pretty brief little survey. I promise not to harass you unless you but if you'll just take a second, go through and answer those questions, it will give me a better idea of who I'm serving today. Okay, we already have a couple of responses. Brian, I adore you. Thank you so much for sharing that in the chat. You are just the absolute best. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It always pays to have people, y'all. I'm just saying. Brian is certainly one of my people. Okay, so we have the gamut, really. This is fantastic. I love learning more about where you guys are from and what your roles are, because it really helps me to, even in the moment, just kind of tweak and adjust what I'm saying. That way it better relates to what you need. It's a Sunday evening. I don't want you guys to be bored to death. Or in Egypt's case, it's a Monday morning at 1 a.m. You are a rock star, I'll tell you that. Awesome. We've got a lot of North Carolina folks. So cool. I love seeing all this. Oh, now I have people that say I don't tweet. I'm gonna fix that. that's my new motive for tonight. Awesome. Yay. All right. So as you guys finish that up, Ooh, I love these. Keep in mind what your favorite tech tool is because I'm going to ask for that in the chat box here in a few minutes. So be thinking about that as you go through. Yay. Oh, you guys are rock stars. And it looks like I have some stickers to send out when we're done. Yay. I'd love to send stickers. That makes my day. Okay. So as you guys are finishing that up, I'm going to go ahead and move along. So what in the world is with the idea of an educational eye exam? Where does that come from? Well, here's the thing. I realized back last fall that I had not had an eye exam in something like 16 years, and I could not see a thing. It was one of those situations where I went to the North Carolina DMV, and I'm sitting there and I'm expecting them to tell me, to ask me to read the signs. And I can read signs. I can make out the little, the yellow rhombus, because not a square, it's a rhombus. I can make that out. I can make out the circle that's the railroad signs. I can make out the yield sign. I didn't have a problem with that. But when that lady told me at the DMV that I needed to read the letters that were above the sign, I freaked out. Clearly, I can't see. I ended up with glasses. And so this whole idea, as I'm sitting there going through the optometrist visit, I'm thinking, how many times have I done that in my educational career? How many times have I let myself go piece by piece by piece to where I'm okay with the status quo in anywhere it is? And it's happened so slowly that I don't even realize I've fallen into this rut, right? So as I'm going through this eye doctor visit, I'm seeing all these connections, and I was just blown away by how much that experience related to education. So this is one of the world's cutest children. This is my almost 11-year-old Bailey, and she had to go to the eye doctor. And so she's going through that very first experience at the eye doctor. You know what I'm talking about. When you go in and they've done your paperwork, the first thing they do is take you to the big E, the eye chart, right? And they have you stand 20 feet back. By the way, that's what the 2020 comes from, 20 feet. Yep. So anyhow, she was standing 20 feet back, and she's going through and she's reading what she could on that eye chart. And that's kind of their way of beginning the diagnosis. It's like a triage. And for an education, knowing where our starting point is really, really important. So here's what had happened in my life. I had got tunnel vision. So a lot of times in the classroom, we're sitting there in this classroom and we are so focused on what's happening within our four walls. I will tell you, I'm the world's worst to realize or to not realize what I do and how it's impacting my entire school. And so it wasn't until I came into this school-wide role of lead digital learning and media innovation facilitator that I realized how every move I make, if I release my kids 2 minutes early, it impacts everything else throughout the school. And so this idea of tunnel vision, we can talk about, how you're stuck in your classroom and not seeing the big picture. We could think of tunnel vision as looking at our own biases and really starting to branch out and think about others. We can look at it really empathy. Empathy is huge. And if we're missing our empathy in our classrooms, we're really missing the biggest piece of education. It's not just about teaching curriculum, we're teaching students. I was not a math teacher. I was a teacher of 5th grade students, and my curriculum was math. And so it's really important to keep in mind that we are focused on students and not necessarily on curriculum and what we are teaching, right? So as I go through, I realized probably about 10 years into my career that I was really starting to be uncomfortably okay with being average. And I don't like that. I've never been the type that's okay with being average. Okay. So I realized like this complete aha moment that, wait a minute, I'm coming to work, and yes, I love my kids. Yes, I love my job, but I'm doing the same thing that I did last year, and I don't feel the passion anymore. I met Dave Burgess at the Gaston County Schools held um, a really amazing tech conference a couple years ago. And I went to that. I met Dave Burgess, the author of Teach Like a Pirate. And I was just blown away and inspired by all the things he had to say. So in 2018, I started this DDC 50 summer. Dave Burgess Consulting had released their 50th book. I realized I had so many of the books already that, I wanted to read them. And I thought maybe this will get me out of my rut. And it did. On steroids. Okay. So not only did I read all these 50 books, but I also decided I wanted to implement something from every book, because Dave Burgess says inspiration without implementation is a waste. He says that in Teach Like a Pirate, and it really hit my gut, right? Like, if we are inspired by something, but we're doing nothing about it, what good is that doing anyone around us? So if you're inspired by something, figure out how you can implement it. And that's super important to me as you're figuring out what your vision is for education. Don't just get in there and figure out your vision. Figure out how you're going to implement that. How are we going to see that through in classrooms internationally? So what is your big E? Now let's think about that. A big E. For an optometrist, the big E is where they start. The big E is that thing where if you can't see that, that's a problem. You're legally blind if the big E is not visible on the eye chart for you. Now, for us as educators, our big E is our why. Why are you in education? What is it that pulled you in and made you want to be an educator? Now, you guys are here on a Sunday evening at 6 o'clock or at 1 a.m. in Egypt. You're here. Clearly, you're not here to clock in and clock out. So what is your big E? What's your purpose? Why are you an educator? Take just a minute and I want you to answer that in the chat. Just share it out. What is your big E? Why are you here? I'm going to go check that out and see what our responses are. Okay. All right. To improve, to learn, to give knowledge to the next generation, to create things, not followers. Ooh, engagement. Oh, I see my friend that I work with. Now it's pressure, right? Because we work together. She knows how I really am. So I am being held accountable for everything I say now. I love it. Oh, I want my kids to be immersed in learning. I want to empower students, the potential for each child. Oh, you guys are so amazing. Oh, I love it. You guys are like touching my heart right now. I'm not going to get teary-eyed though. I can get teary-eyed. I'm going to try not to. I love it. All right, keep sharing out your why, your big E. Read others' big E and comment on theirs. If you see somebody that you're like, oh yeah, that's the same as mine. You have the opportunity to really meet and talk to people that maybe you wouldn't have met and talked to before. So start sharing some information with each other. For me, it's really important that my learners know that I am there for them every day. I want to make it undeniable to any learner that I have that I'm there for a reason and that reason is them. Every morning when I get up, my kids are the single most important thing to me that day. So if that means that I'm going to stop a PLC with a teacher because a student needs to come talk to me, that's what I'm going to do. I am there for my learners. I actually wrote a blog a while back that was published by the Friday Institute, talked about who do I serve? As my role is actually an instructional coach. And so who do I serve as an instructional coach? Well, ultimately, I serve my students. So my teachers, you classroom teachers, you also serve your students. That's your ultimate audience. So my learners are who I'm here for every day. Okay, so we have gotten past the big E. And we're now we're in the room. You guys have all seen this stuff, right? If you've ever been to an eye doctor, these things are familiar to you. And so you know that this machine, it's funny because it almost looks, it kind of looks archaic in this odd kind of way, right? I mean, look at how much is there. Well, this seemingly archaic machine is actually a huge advancement in technology. And so if we're thinking about how we cover our right eye and we cover our left eye, and somehow optometrists can use all these little dials here that mean different things to them. They mean nothing to me. I don't have a clue what all that is. But all of this means something to them, and they can just make one slight little tweak, one little change, and then all of a sudden you can see clear as day. That's what we're here for. I'm wanting to have you have that aha moment where, as an optometrist, if I turn that dial just a hair, I want your vision to be clear. I want you to be like, oh my goodness, that's what I'm here for. And so just like going to the eye doctor, you know, we all have fears, right? Some people fear the dentist. That is a real fear for some people. I have to drag my 7-year-old kicking and screaming to the dentist. Well, for me, it's the eye doctor. I hate to have my eyes dilated. I hate it. Y'all, not a little bit. I hate it. Okay. I hate everything about having anything near my eye. I don't like the thought that someone else either has to drive me because I can't see till the dilation wears off, or those silly little glasses they put on you. All of that just, it makes me miserable. It makes me sick to even think about it. So as I go, that was the one thing that I was so stressed out about in this first visit in 16 years. And the lady says, well, you know, we don't necessarily have to dilate your eyes. And so I kind of interject, oh, there is that puff, but my eye closes every time that, you know, that puff of air that they do into your eye, that apparently it has another purpose. I don't know, but my eye closes every time. It anticipates it and it closes. And so I'm really stressing out, and I'm telling this lady, you know, I don't know how you're going to get a really good reading on this. She said, well, we have this new piece of technology. Y'all, digital learning. It's in my title. I got a little geeked out, right? So I was like, yes, tell me about your new technology. And so she says, well, we have this new piece of technology, and all you have to do is look in at this little green dot. And this little green dot, there's going to be a bright flash of light, and it's going to take a picture of your eyeball. And I said, my eyeball? In my head. She said, yes, absolutely. We'll be able to see your optic nerve and everything. Okay, let's try that out. So I went through that, and it was the easiest thing ever. It's like that obnoxious school picture where those lights are right there in front of you and they flash really bright and then you can't see for a second. It was just like that. But then the information they were able to give about the optic nerve and all this other medical jargon, it was amazing. And so I think about, for us, what is our technology looking like? What does tech look like in our classrooms? Go ahead in the chat box for a second, and I want you to share, what does technology look like in your classroom right now? What do you have available to you that allows you to better reach your students? Oh, I love your comments in here. These are great. Ooh, an online teacher. So everything you have is tech. I love it. Oh, fantastic. A smart board. Mm-hmm. Yep, those interactive whiteboards and smart boards. Tablets, okay. Chromebooks and Google. Fantastic. Uh-huh. iPads. Awesome. So, you know, it's not like we're at a loss for technology so much anymore. This is what I had my first year teaching. This is actually me back in 2006. I was a baby. I started teaching when I was 20 years old. Oh, goodness. And so over here at the top with the striped, whoa, I have striped shirts on both. Wow. That was a moment of realization for me. Okay. So up in the top corner where you can see those computers behind me, those were the only 2 computers I had available in my classroom. And if I ever needed students to do anything online, it needed to be done on one of those 2 computers. I'll tell you, the computers were not that reliable. And a lot of times it was shutting them down and rebooting them. And you know that rebooting those old Windows computers can take forever. Those were the computers that the first second that I walked in the door, before I did anything else, I walked over and hit the power button, because it would take that long for them to boot up to the sign-in screen. And then in the one in the center there, you'll see a whiteboard, not an interactive whiteboard. No, that's just a regular whiteboard. And notice, I told you earlier I was a math teacher. Notice on the whiteboard, that would be my attempt at teaching students about a pie chart. And we had 20 kids in that classroom, and we were voting on our favorite movie. And so I had to go through and color in different colors for each student on their pie chart. That was 2006. Okay. Also, the technology that I'm wearing right there is actually an assistive device for one of our students that was hard of hearing. Now, you want to talk about drawing attention to a kid. That right there drew attention to that student. Everybody knew that the child was hard of hearing, and there was no confidentiality that was happening in that classroom. As a mom of a child with type 1 diabetes, I'm very aware of what we're doing that really discourages our students with all types of disabilities. So that was one that it really hit me when I saw that picture. I thought of that student immediately, and I thought, how unfair was it to her that it was so clear that she was hard of hearing? You know, just a thought. So now, as we move forward, we have interactive whiteboards. We had smart boards in our district, but you may notice that in this particular picture, we're actually rolling smart boards out. The software to maintain these smart boards and the bulbs and the projectors and all the things that have to do with it, it's just getting too expensive for us. So we've really started moving more towards the flat screen TVs that you see there being wheeled in and mounting. We're also a one-to-one Google Chromebook school, so we just use Google Cast. And so we slide right on through. Every year at the beginning of the year, I have the privilege, I say privilege with a smile, because it's a lot of work to get almost 400 Chromebooks in every student's hand, and we really want them in their hands the first or second day of learning. So that is our Chromebooks just for our 6th grade. Every student gets a Chromebook here at our school that they can take home with them and use. And so our teachers really teach using technology every day. You'll see there in the middle, we have a young man in a 7th grade lake. They were on the Titanic, and their teacher had said, you know, hey, do you have anything in virtual reality that has to do with the Titanic? Well, not only did we allow him to get on and see the Titanic, he also got to sit next to the unsinkable Molly Brown, and he got to interact with Molly Brown as the Titanic is sinking behind him. And so you want to talk about bringing learning to life. That brings learning to life. The changes that we have had in our technology from 2006 just to 2020, that's unreal. So what's it going to look like in the next 14 years? I imagine that every kid's going to come to school with a virtual reality headset of their own. I will no longer need a room that houses one per each kid. They're just going to bring them with them. I think one-to-one's going to eventually go. The most important thing that we need to know is that if our students are using technology as a glorified worksheet, we're doing them a disservice. We don't need to give students worksheets anymore. We need to have them creating. We need to have them making. Tech tools are another access point for creating and making in the classroom. And if all we're doing with our technology is having them consume someone else's creation, we are truly doing them a disservice here in the year 2020. We can't even really say 21st century learning anymore, because that's kind of silly. We've been in it for 20 years. These kids have never known anything other than 21st century learning. Our high school students were born after the new millennium began. So to say 21st century skills is kind of silly, right? So we need to be thinking about how we can make sure our students are ready for the future, whatever future that might be. Now, this is my daughter, my 7-year-old's, newly 7, by the way. This is my newly 7-year-old's iPad screen. Yes, my 7-year-old has an iPad. Judge not, okay? So as I look at her screen, I look at some of the apps that she has, and I see that so many of these are consumption apps, right? So I can see things like Temple Run. I see things like Sonic Boom. I see things like PBS videos. I see all these different consumption apps where all she does is open it up and plays a game or watches a video. But I'll tell you, the apps that my daughter uses the most of her own will are things like Minecraft or Primal Craft, things like Hatchtopia Life, where she gets to take her little Hatchimals that Santa brought her this year, and she gets to give them life and make sure they're taken care of and have their friends and create their homes. She loves playing with her Osmo. She loves to use the tangram feature where she go in and change the different animals that she's making in tangrams. So I encourage you, I'm very curious as you go back to work tomorrow or as you're looking at your iPads, your one-to-one, maybe your bookmarks, your Symbaloo, if you still have a Symbaloo. I encourage you to look and see which of those are creation apps, which are websites that foster creation and not just consumption. So as we're looking at those apps, let's also look at the science of teaching. We all know the psychology behind education. We know that students, we know our Bloom's taxonomy, we know our Maslow, we know all this science of teaching. We know how to teach. We could pick anybody off the street and say, hey, here's a lesson plan, go teach it. And they can read that lesson plan and teach our students. The most important part, though, is the art of teaching. That's what you bring to the classroom. What makes you uniquely you in the classroom? The best teachers are those that have mastered the science and the art of teaching. If you're just a great teacher, scientifically speaking, if you just get results, I guarantee you that the kids are bored, and there's probably not a lot of lifelong learning that's happening there, certainly not inspired. If you're only focused in the art of teaching, maybe we're just babysitting. Think about that. And that might hurt a little bit. I'll tell you, it hurt me. And actually in the book, I talk a little bit about how I really started swinging more towards the art of teaching and realizing that I needed to pull back and use both of my eyes. If I don't use both eyes, then I'm not getting such a clear picture. So the science and the art of teaching. Now think about those really awesome lessons that you have. I know you have them. You do them. A lot of us are guilty of doing those really awesome behind closed doors. We don't share them with anybody. Maybe we don't feel like they're that awesome and we feel like everybody else already knows that. Well, maybe they don't. Or maybe we feel like it's bragging on ourselves if we share some of the really awesome things we're doing in our classroom. That's not bragging on you, that's bragging on your students. Brag on those students, they deserve it. Let's stop competing with each other. We're in this society where everything is in competition. The only competition we should have is competing against ourselves yesterday. Stop competing with one another and start sharing those awesome ideas. Set up that Twitter account, set up an Instagram, a Facebook, and share the really incredible things that you're doing day to day. If you have nowhere else to share, if you're on Twitter, use the hashtag EduIExam and share away. We will retweet and share and talk about how amazing your students are and all the great things they're doing. Also, if you want to get kids involved and really excited about their learning, tell them that what they're creating is going public. That's huge. I see the most amazing things come from my kids who know that I'm going to tweet out what they're doing. And they'll come to me a couple days later. Hey, how many people saw that? How many impressions do you have on Twitter right now on that? And they get so excited when I say, a couple thousand people have seen it. And they're like, what? So, give your kids that platform. Stop competing and start sharing. So take a second. I've talked for a lot. Take a second and share what your favorite tech tool is in the chat below. How do you take it past consumption into creation? Okay, so I'm going to give you just a minute to go through and do that. Oh, Tammy, I love that that Titanic unit. She's actually here in the lesson in our session today, the lady who did our Titanic unit. It was amazing. Oh, Class Kick. I enjoy Class Kick. Yes. Got to drink some more coffee. Yes, infographics. Oh, I love using Canva for infographics. GimKit. Oh my goodness, yes. My kids are digging some GimKit right now. We have a couple teachers that's their go-to just about every day. They're going to do a GimKit lesson. Love it. Oh, yeah. An overhead projector. Yes. I love it, Renee. Absolutely. Yeah. Actually, the overhead projectors, we have some teachers that use those for dilations in math, and it's more impressive to them to see an overhead projector. And I sit there and think how archaic that is. But, it's brand new to them. So they think it's cool. Oh, Desmos. Yes. Yes. Breakouts. Love Breakout EDU. QR code scavenger hunts. Those are fun. Note Flight. Ooh, I'd like to hear more about that. Awesome. All right, so keep on sharing those. This is really more for you because you guys are the geniuses here. I'm just facilitating that genius between all of you. So keep sharing within the chat all of the awesome things that you're using that move past consumption into creation. One of the things that we do, our kids enjoy quizzes. They are still way into quizzes and Kahoot. And so we've had them start moving past just this idea of playing quizzes, and they create the quizzes now. And so a lot of our students have their own accounts in quizzes, and they'll make their quizzes for other kids in the classroom, and they have the most fun playing one another's quizzes. And I'm impressed with the stuff they come up with every time. It really just takes it that extra notch into student creation. So moving on, what does your feedback say about you? Think about the feedback that we can give with those different tools you guys just named there with creation. There's so much that we can do with our feedback using technology in our classroom. Let's start with Google Forms. One of the easiest things there is to make a Google form into a quiz. You can give feedback based on an incorrect answer, feedback based on a correct answer. That feedback can be something as simple as taking them back to their LMS and saying, take a second and look back at this. It could be taking them to a Khan Academy video. It could be taking them to just a step-by-step website that you've created, or maybe find a friend who got this question correct. Take a second and raise your hand if you got it right, and then have other students go and talk with those students and allow them to peer tutor. Google Forms is one of the easiest ways to give immediate, personalized feedback to students. And it's personalized because they picked an incorrect answer, and so you give them the place they need to go to get to understand how to get the correct answer. Flipgrid. Flipgrid is one of my favorite things, and I really am digging it right now for my middle schoolers because they have the pixelated option now where, elementary kids might really love Flipgrid because they enjoy seeing themselves on film. I don't know about you. I hate seeing myself on camera. So do our middle schoolers. So do our high schoolers. So I let them use the little pixelated filter, and they will Flipgrid all day long now because nobody's seeing their face. They love that. What about Nearpod? Nearpod is a great way for you to give immediate feedback to students. Newsela. I love Newsela. Newsela, it's an amazing platform. We've got GoFormative, Google Classroom. This is Classcraft. It's a fun game-based platform that you can use that gives immediate feedback. Seesaw allows other students to give each other feedback. Resly is the old 3D game lab. If you've never heard about it, it's a great gamification platform. ClassKick, a lot of you shouted out ClassKick earlier. Yes, yes, yes. Wakelet is a new tool where students can go in and they can curate lots of different resources. I think about it like with a research project, curate all their resources and then share them out and get feedback based on that. Socrative or Socrative, though, that's another great site that you can use to give students immediate feedback. Bunchy, love that one. That one's so much fun. Check it out if you've not yet. What does your feedback say about you? How can you use technology to better give our students immediate feedback that is personalized and meaningful to them? If we just slap a grade on a paper, that's really not meaningful to them. A red X on a paper, it's one of my pet peeves. But a red X on a paper, it doesn't tell them anything other than they got it wrong. Why did they get it wrong? If we can't walk them through why, they're not really going to learn anything from it. So, what are you saying with your feedback? So, how can you use technology to maximize feedback while still keeping it meaningful? Take a second and answer that in the chat. Love it. These little breaks are perfect for coffee. Ooh, blogs. Yes. I love that idea. Yes, using blogs. There's Kid Blog and several other blogging sites. You can actually just use the new Google Sites and have them set that up as a blog and then go through and read one another's blog and comment on their features. And it's a great lifelong skill to tell them, how do students give feedback to one another? I love that. Thank you for bringing that up. Yes, peer sharing, talking things through, just quick conferences with others are great. Sharing links, yes. Ooh, a YouTube channel. Yeah, absolutely. That makes perfect sense, Shayla. Okay. Yes, students can answer why they missed it. Absolutely. And I think, Molly, I'm so glad that you brought that up, because I think that while students are sharing why they missed it, I think that they need to be sharing that with someone, right? Otherwise, I mean, my middle school kids, if they don't have an audience for sharing that information about why they missed it, they're not going to do it. So yes, I 100% agree to share why they miss a question. Yeah, Flipgrid. It's amazing. And it's so fast. Oh my goodness. I can give feedback in Flipgrid so quickly, where if I'm writing feedback, it takes much longer. Yeah, it's great. All right. Keep those answers coming. I love seeing your answers. The last thing we're going to talk about real quick is choices. Given our students choices in the classroom, those choices can be revolving around technology, digital learning, or not. Maybe you're just giving them a learning menu and giving them different options within that learning menu. The thing is, after I finished with my exam, my eye exam, they always kind of dump you out into this little boutique that has all these different frames around you, right? And they fix you up with this really sweet lady or this really nice guy, and they say, hey, would you like glasses or contacts today? Right? And then they start asking you all these questions. Well, if you want contacts, do you want the ones that you can, like the wearable ones that you can leave in, or do you want the ones that you take out? Do you want colored contacts or not? Would you like this brand or that brand? If you're talking about your frames, which I'm obviously a frames person, remember, I don't like things touching my eyeballs at all. But if I'm going through and I'm picking out my frames, holy moly, it's unreal the choices I have. And let's be real, all those choices are very overwhelming. Oh my goodness. There are so many glasses, and those choices can feel just, you can't narrow it down. It's so overwhelming sometimes. So within that, think about with our choices feeling overwhelming. You give a kid choice A, and then you say, all right, yes, I've got choice A. And then I'm going to give you this whole menu option of 16 different things, and you need to pick 4. Well, that can be a lot. Sometimes I found myself thinking, go me. But really, all I've done is kind of shoot myself in the foot, because I've told kids, I really don't care how you show me what you know, just show me how you know it. That's scary, because now there's all these options, and kids are going, well, do I put something on my YouTube channel? Can I make something in Minecraft? Can I create something in VR? What about the Merge Cube? Can I make something in augmented reality using the Merge Cube? Hey, Miss Ray, can I make something with Lego? Can I use a 3D printer? Right? That's a lot. It's overwhelming for me as the educator, because all of a sudden I'm going, how the heck am I going to figure out who's doing what? But then it's also overwhelming for our students. So here's my suggestion, and this is just a small little nugget, and for some this may feel like, Oh, well, of course, that makes perfect sense. And some of you may already do this awesome thing yourself. This is what our kids are saying, right? Oh, gulp. So when you're introducing choice, start with one thing, just one. Kids, I want you to use a Google slide presentation today. Even give them a template if you need to that says, I want this on this one, this on this slide, and so on. Very structured, because really good choice is not going to come until we've structured the options for them. So when we're introducing choice, start with just one thing and say, we're all going to get really, really good at this one thing. Maybe it's Google Slides. Okay, so then the next time that we have choice, now we're going to give them two choices. Hey kids, you remember how a couple weeks ago, we did this Google Slides presentation. We're going to do another presentation this week, except for I want you to either use Google Slides or, maybe you're really, really confident in Google Slides and you'd like a challenge. Maybe you want to try Canva. Maybe I can show you how to do a presentation in Canva. Pretty much the same thing, but it's given them some choice. And so those students that are ready for something new, they're going to push forward and they're going to go to option B, where the others might stick with option A. And then the next time you have choice, branch out more. Okay, so maybe we have Google Slides. Maybe you can use a presentation in Canva, but maybe now you feel really confident in Canva and you understand how all that works. Now I'm going to let you pick something else in Canva. Maybe that's choice C. You see how we're scaffolding this? It's just basic differentiation and scaffolding your tools in order to give students a more comfortable view of choice. Now, if we do this again and again and again, I want you to think about how many choices students can have. Let's say that every week you're having them create something, which I personally don't think is asking too much. We want our students creating, not consuming, right? So if we're going through and having them create something every week, by the end of a traditional school year, 36-ish weeks here in Surrey County, that's 36 tools that our students could potentially feel very comfortable sharing. Now multiply that by 3, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. Imagine the toolbox that our kids would have and the ways that they could show their knowledge by the time they're in 8th grade is phenomenal. And then you have students that are not overwhelmed. And those students are like, challenge accepted. I got this. Meanwhile, you as the teacher, you also have the time to understand how you're going to go through and grade each of these different products. Maybe you're just giving them a 1-point rubric. Yes, you did this, or no, you did not meet it. It's important to go back and allow them the time to go through and look at what they did wrong, or look at the incomplete data and add to that. So what is your vision? We've talked about different things today. These are 3 topics that are covered within Educational Eye Exam. We've talked about creation versus consumption. We've talked about what apps and tools and websites we're using. We've talked about student choice, and we've talked about your feedback, right? That's a lot that we've covered in this very short period of time. What's your vision for using that technology in the classroom? What are you going to do to implement technology in the classroom, and how are you going to see it through? When an evaluator walks into your room, are they going to know, hey, this person right here's got it going on with technology, and I know that because their students are creating X, Y, and Z. So how will you see your vision through in technology? Okay, so that's all I've got for you today. If you'd like more about Educational Eye Exam, there are 2 links there in your presentation. The first will take you to a preview. The second will take you to the Amazon page. Again, you're welcome to contact me in any way, whenever you'd like. I will 100% get back with you at I Love Educating on Instagram and Twitter. And you can also email me at iloveeducating@gmail.com. I look forward to chatting with all of you, and I will be getting those stickers out very, very soon. So Shayla, I'm going to send it back over to you. I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Alicia, thank you so much. That was amazing. I know somebody wrote that they love your energy, and I'm right there with them.
Thank you.
Especially this late in the evening. That's not easy to That's not easy to bring at almost 7 o'clock on a Sunday night. So we very, very much appreciate it. So really quickly, I'm
Frappuccino.
sorry, I'm getting my slides up really quickly. Again, if you have any last minute questions, you are welcome to put those in the chat window and we'll keep monitoring it for a while. If you don't mind, before you drop off this evening, if you would go back to that main agenda where you found the link for the Zoom session, just over beside Alicia's picture, you will see a link to give her feedback. It's 2 quick questions, but I know she would really appreciate it. This is our last session for this evening. We will kick things off tomorrow afternoon at 12 noon. Again, we will be recording any sessions that folks are not able to join and posting those back on the session board of the agenda. And last but not least, if you are interested in keeping up with things happening at the Friday Institute, you are welcome to go to this last link, the go.ncsu.edu/ the PLLC newsletter. This is something we send out quarterly, if not twice quarterly, with updates, links to information. We have lots of free MOOCs that are available for you to continue to extend your learning. We would love to have you on our newsletter feed to hear about future events like these that are coming up. If there is nothing else and no other questions, I'm going to let everyone go. Thank you again so much for joining us and have a great evening. Alicia, thank you again as well.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank y'all so much. I hope y'all have a great week. And like I said, if you need me for anything, just yell.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks, guys.